Hello everyone, this is where the sketchbook making process gets a little tricky. After you have your covers taped together, like you saw in the Google Slides, we are going to start folding our papers and poking holes and assembling them together to create our sketchbook. So you are going to get your papers out. Make sure you count them. I have given you the exact number that you will need for your sketchbook. Once you have those all counted out and separated, you want to start folding them in half. Make sure that they are lining up perfectly before you actually fold them. So what I like to do is hold it, make sure it's good, and then I slide a finger down to the crease and then fold the crease down either with my nails or you can use a ruler. So again, you can see me above folding all of my pieces of paper. I'm gonna zoom through the rest of this because we don't need to watch me fold these. What is really important is the next step, which is when we begin assembling our pages together. So we're gonna have 2 stacks of paper. Okay, so you are gonna have 1 sheet of black paper and 5 sheets of drawing paper that are folded together. Then you are also going to have a stack of gray and a stack of watercolor. Okay, the watercolor is going to go inside of the gray, and then the black sheet of paper is going to go inside of your drawing paper. So you want to make sure it's right in the center, okay, because it's going to basically separate 2 sides of your drawing paper. Okay, so then you have black right in the center, and then your drawing paper on the outside. And then gray will be on the outside for your second set of papers with your watercolor paper on the inside. So we're going to put the gray set aside for now, and we're going to open the inside of our drawing set. And now we're going to start making measurements. These measurements are very important because we are going to poke holes through these marks. So what you're going to do is you are going to use a ruler, and this paper is 12 inches high. So you are going to line up the edge of your ruler. Okay, except for this one, notice how the edge of my ruler is actually a little line, so it's not the very, very end of the ruler. So we'll talk about rulers in class, but you want to make sure that the edge, where the starting point is, the 0 on the ruler, lines up to the edge of your paper. Then you're going to make a mark at 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. So basically all of the odd numbers is where you're going to make a mark at. Okay, just a little mark right where the crease is. This is where we're going to be poking our holes through. Once you have made all of your marks, then you will come up to the front and you will grab a needle. With this needle, you will line up your needle to the mark that you made. Please make sure that your papers are lined up evenly because we're going to poke through the entire stack at once. And if they're not lined up, then your holes will not be even when we begin sewing. So please make sure that they are lined up before you start. Then what you're going to do is literally just take the needle right on top of your mark. Okay, you can see me doing that right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my other hand to lift the paper, and this way you're not pushing with your other hand with the needle, you're just using the momentum of the paper to make the holes, okay? Right now you can see me struggling just a little because I wanted to give you a really good camera angle. So again, needle lining up on the paper. Use your other hand and just lift. And you can do 1 page at a time or you can do 2. Honestly, you just want to do what feels comfortable for you during this step. But as you can see, I have my needle all the way through. So then that first set is done. Again, make sure your papers didn't move at all, and then move right on to your next mark. Again, line up your needle to that mark and just begin lifting the papers up Look at how easy that needle goes through. And just continue this process all the way up. And we're also going to be repeating the same process for our second set of papers. So I'm going to fast forward to that one as well. Once you finish your very last hole poking through, you're going to take your first stack of papers and set this to the side for now and grab that second set. We're repeating the same process. Just make sure your gray papers are on the outside. You should have 4. And then you have 2 watercolor papers. These are thicker than your drawing papers. Then you're going to take your ruler. Again, remember, if it starts at the 0, line up the 0 to the edge of the paper and then make your marks. Remember, some rulers do start at the edge of the ruler, so make sure you're paying attention. Then take your needle again and line up your needle to the marks that you made. Make sure though that your papers are even. Craftsmanship is a really key component in this class. And then same process. I'm going to speed through this. You're just going to line up your needle and lift your paper with your other hand, and you're going to zoom through poking these holes. Once you have them both completely done, you are going to take your stacks and we're going to then take our cover and we're also going to make marks on the inside of your book. Okay, so I have my inside of my sketchbook open and there's an inch of space in between both cardboard pieces. So in that inch of space, I am going to make a single mark that we made on our papers. So again, lining up your ruler to the start of the inch, you're going to make a mark at 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. So every odd number. As you make your marks, if you notice, I'm making one mark and then right next to it, a little gap in between, I'm making another mark. Okay, the reason why you're doing this, you're creating 2 columns. We have 2 stacks of paper that we're going to be sewing through. So the first column closest to the front cover will be for your drawing paper and the one black paper, whereas the second column closest to your back cover will be for the gray pieces of paper and your watercolor pieces of paper. So once you have made all of your marks, you're going to go ahead and take your needle again, and you're just going to poke a hole through each of these marks that you just made. This next part is very important, so make sure you watch the entire thing before you do it on your own. Once you grab your string, you are going to tape one end of it to the very top of your spine. Then you are going to feed it through your needle, and you're going to take your needle and you're going to go through to the inside of the cover from that first hole in your first column. Then you're going to take your first stack of papers and feed the needle and the string through the very top hole of your first set of papers. So as you can see, it's coming through. And then you're just going to go down to the next hole. Poke that through your papers, make sure that you're not making new holes, feed that through, and then feed that through the next hole. Make sure that this is nice and tight because you can't go back later on. It's gonna be a struggle, I'll tell you that. But you're basically just gonna be weaving in and out, okay, making sure that you're going through the spine, then through your papers. Here you can see I'm tightening my first string. Okay, and then I'm going through the spine, pulling out, and again, making sure I'm pulling it so it's nice and tight. Okay, the string shouldn't have any give in between there. It should be a straight line. Okay, and then just back in and out. Okay, going down, and now back out to the back. Now here's the important part, okay? We're gonna go back up, but before I do that, I'm making sure I'm tightening it all. Craftsmanship, very important. But now we're gonna fill in these gaps. So see how there's gaps in between the string? There's empty gaps. I'm going right back up through that hole, okay? So closing that gap. Again, going through the next hole up, closing that gap. Next hole, closing the gap. And then finally going through the last hole, second hole from the top, and finishing off our first stack of papers. We are not gonna go back through that very first hole, okay? That one's done. We're gonna go into that next column, okay? So you're gonna feed your needle into that second column and grab your second stack of papers. So you wanna take your needle and you're going to repeat that process to finish up your book. So again, going through the top hole, pulling it all the way through, okay? Want to make sure again that it's nice and tight. Going through the first hole down, so the second hole, and then lining it up through that second hole in your second column. Okay, go through the spine, pull your string entirely out, and again, making sure that it's nice and tight, okay? You don't want your string to be loose at all. The string has the perfect amount for your sketchbook, and if it's loose, you won't have enough string to close it. So again, just following your line down, your column down, going through the next hole. You should be going through the third hole now. So put the needle through your spine and then go through that third hole in your sketchbook. Again, continue your string down, going right into the next hole, going through the spine, and then back to the next hole on the outside, pulling through the spine, and then through your book. Again, while you're doing this, make sure that you're careful that you're not making new holes. I'm taking my time feeding it through to make sure that it's lined up properly. And again, look at, I'm tightening that string. You want to make sure that it's nice and tight. It's not loose at all. Your book won't be bound nicely if you don't do that. So again, last hole, back on the outside. Now we need to fill in those gaps. So on the outside of your spine, you're just gonna work your way back up, okay? Same on the inside. So I am going to take my string and my needle, and I'm gonna go right back in, pulling it through. Should be easy at this point. Then going right back through the next hole up, pull your entire string through. Again, next hole up, go right through, pull it out, and then last hole, close that gap, push your needle through, and pull the string out. Again, making sure that it's nice and tight going up as well. Okay, everything looks good, both sides. And then you're gonna take your string and another piece of tape, and I'm just gonna tape this down so it doesn't move on me and doesn't go back into the book. And then I just cut off the excess string. I'm also going to move down my first piece of tape and string. The reason why I'm doing this is because we are going to put another piece of tape over the string to completely hide this. So whatever color tape that you chose, either white or black, you want to cut off a piece that's a little bit shorter than the length of your book, okay, but long enough to cover the string. And congratulations, you've made your very own sketchbook. The last thing that you want to do is number all of your pages. So front and back, you're going to start on the very first page, number 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So there should be odd numbers on the right side and then even numbers on the left side. You'll end up with 48 pages total. Hope you enjoyed this process. Can't wait to see your sketchbooks.